These are my top 10 favorite movies of 2024. I have two big disclaimers first. The first big disclaimer is that I didn't see every movie of 2024. I still haven't seen Anora. I haven't seen A Brutalist. I haven't seen Conclave. You can never see everything. I try my best to see most things, but I do want to see Anora. The second big disclaimer is I tried my absolute hardest to make a top 10, and I just couldn't do it. There aren't 10 movies in 2024 that I thought were great enough to be in a top 10. And I was thinking about it. With the Academy Awards, they don't always nominate 10 Best Pictures. Sometimes they do 10, sometimes they do 9, sometimes they do 8. I did 7. There were 7 movies that I liked enough to put on a Best of the Year list. There weren't 10. Number 7 on my list was my number 1 most anticipated movie of 2024 from one of my favorite directors, Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. This movie has been years in the making. He's been talking about making this movie since 2016 when The Witch came out. I thought Nosferatu was awesome, and I love Robert Eggers' gothic horror style. I think he's one of the best horror directors working today, maybe the best. I love Bill Skarsgård's Count Orlok. I love Lily Rose Depp in the movie. I love the overall style of the movie. I love that hand that creeps over the city. The only things I don't like about it, I wish we spent more time in Count Orlok's castle. I feel like we only spent like 15 minutes there. I wish we spent more time on the Demeter. And I just personally, and it's a weird thing, I never care for it, and I just am never into Nicholas Hoult or Aaron Taylor Johnson. Either of those two guys I just never really care about in movies. They're not actors I really care for. Them two being the leads made it a little bit hard because I don't know, something about their faces, I can't look at them for too long. That was number 7 on my list, Nosferatu. Number 6 on my list is Longlegs. Longlegs felt like a modern day Silence of the Lambs with Maika Monroe, one of my favorite actresses. I have her tattooed on my arm over here. I love Maika Monroe. I love Nicolas Cage as Longlegs. I love this FBI detective thriller. If you like Silence of the Lambs, you like Longlegs. If you like Mindhunter, you will like Longlegs. Longlegs was awesome, and it took me back. If you remember, around 2014 to 2019, we had these great indie A24-esque horror films with all these little indie horror films that were coming out in this little 5-year span that were awesome. Longlegs took me back to that great era 10 years ago. I hated the ending of Longlegs. The last 5 minutes of this movie I thought was incredibly just dumb and ridiculous, and I hated it. If it weren't for that ending, it would be much higher on my list. Number 5 on my list is Civil War. This is another movie that if it weren't for the terrible ending, it would be much higher on the list. Civil War's ending was completely underwhelming and just awful. The rest of the movie is awesome. I love Civil War, and I don't really like politics. I try to stay away from politics. I try to stay away from political people. I don't care. I want to stay out of it. I didn't think I would like Civil War because of that reason. But Civil War was so entertaining. It felt like the most realistic zombie apocalypse movie we could get. The real dramedy in this really dark topic that felt very real and something that we could eventually get to one day. I thought Civil War was awesome. The ending just sucked. Number 4 on my list is from George Miller, the sequel or the prequel to one of my favorite movies of all time, Mad Max Fury Road. George Miller's Furiosa. It's not as good as Fury Road, but it's so good. It's honestly, I think, one of the best blockbusters we have had in years, probably of the last decade. One of the best action films we have had of the last decade. It's funny, when Fury Road came out, everybody was trying to recreate Mad Max Fury Road's action car chase scenes in their movie. Go back to films like Ad Astra and even some animated movies. It felt like everybody was trying to do what George Miller did in Fury Road, and nobody did it good enough or even close to what he did until he did Furiosa, and he even topped some of his car chase scenes in Fury Road in Furiosa. I love this movie. I loved Chris Hemsworth as Dementus and the Red Dementus. I love seeing Immortan Joe. He's one of my favorite movie characters of all time. I'm a big Mad Max fan, and this movie I thought was just spectacular. Number 3 on my list is a movie that my brother was harassing me to watch, and I didn't want to watch it. I thought the title was stupid, and I was like, I'm going to hate this movie. And it's Hundreds of Beavers. This is one of the most unique, creative movies I've ever seen. It's a movie that will, if there's any movies out there that make you want to make movies, that you watch and it inspires you and you're like, wow, if I were to make a movie, something like that is cool. Like something like that is unique. Hundreds of Beavers is awesome. There's no dialogue. It's just black and white, just a dude trying to survive and outrun and outsmart hundreds of beavers. It's a genius film and everybody should watch it. If there was one movie in 2024 I could recommend the most, it'd be Hundreds of Beavers because nobody's talking about it and it's awesome. Number 2 on my list. This is the craziest, most fucked up, insane movie I've ever seen in the theaters. It's also the funniest movie I saw all year. I was cracking up in this theater the entire way through, and everybody else in the theater was silent. And I really wish I could know if those people were liking the movie or not, because I feel like they were hating it. The Substance. I love The Substance. Of any movie this year, I know I should be recommending Hundreds of Beavers. Like I said, I've told everybody to watch The Substance. Everybody needs to see The Substance. It'll make you think about you and your state and your age and your younger self. If you're older, if you're getting close to your 30s, if you're getting close to your 40s, if you're getting close to your 50s, it'll make you think about yourself 10 years back, 20 years back, 30 years back. If you're in this situation, there's no movie this year that'll make you think, if I were in that situation, what would I do? And it's just such a fascinating, such a well-made movie. Demi Moore, she won the Golden Globe last night. I hope she wins the Oscar. I love the third act when they do this film in chapters. Like chapter 1 is called something, chapter 2 is called something, and chapter 3 is called something. When I saw the title to chapter 3, just the title, it is the funniest moment of the year for me. If there was a funniest scene of 2024, it's the title card to chapter 3 of The Substance. I love The Substance. It's one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time. Number 1 on my list comes from probably my second favorite director alive. I've been a big fan of him for over 10 years now. It is Denis Villeneuve's Dune 2. Denis Villeneuve has made some of my favorite movies of all time, including Prisoners, Blade Runner 2049, Sicario. I love this guy. Dune 2, I think, is one of the best blockbuster films of all time, personally, and I hate to be one of the fucking Dune 2 dick riders, but I love this movie. I think even from the first 10 minutes, when you got those dudes with the jetpacks, you kind of see that this is a bit of a different film. Denis Villeneuve, if he's going to make a blockbuster, a film with action in it, a film with a bigger budget in it, and take you to these sci-fi locations, he's not going to do it like the rest of the Hollywood directors out there. It feels like a true piece of art that happens to have a big budget and happens to be a sci-fi film on other planets with ships and just fucking crazy shit. I think it's one of the best blockbusters I've seen. It's one of the best films I've seen in all realms. The cinematography is amazing. The acting's super good. The movie's fucking awesome. Dune 2 blew me away, and it was the first movie. There's 2 movies I saw this year twice in theaters. I rarely ever see a movie a second time in theaters. It was Longlegs and Dune 2. Dune 2 is also the first movie I ever saw in IMAX, in true IMAX, and it was pretty friggin' cool. I love this movie. Those are my top 7 favorite movies of 2024. Nosferatu, Longlegs, Civil War, Furiosa, Hundreds of Beavers, The Substance, and Dune 2. Pretty okay year for movies, honestly. In all the years that I've been a movie fan, I feel like I've never not been able to make a top 10. In this year, I just wasn't able to find 10 movies that I thought were really great enough to be on a top 10 that we're still going to be talking about in, 10 years from now. Some of these movies that people say are like the best movie of the year, I feel like nobody's talking about them in 6 months. And especially not a year or 2 later, nobody's talking about these movies. They're you see it and it's this fucking dramatic biopic, and then you forget it like once the Oscars are over, and it's like, did anybody really give a fuck about that movie? I don't know. That's my list. What's your list? Peace. Check out my worst. I did my worst 7 movies. Check that out.